let's move to the introductions part of this webinar. First, I'd like to welcome everyone who is attending. We had a record number of registrants, over 220 people. Welcome to everyone. We're just seeing people are still joining in. My name is Ala Qadi. I'm the Vice Chair of the Coalition of Racialized Workers and a representative from Region 4, and I am a Palestinian Canadian. I'm going to introduce our first, I'll let our other members of the committees introduce themselves. Then I will introduce the panelists myself. Taylor, if you want to introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for taking your time this evening to come to this really important panel discussion. I am a representative from Region 1, which is Southwestern Ontario. I am the Vice Chair of the Provincial Young Workers Committee, and I am the Vice President of Young Workers at the Canadian Labour Congress.
And Lindsay, if you can go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm Lindsay Giroux. I'm on the Provincial Young Workers Committee for Region 6. I live in Sudbury. I'm also the Vice President of my local and the Vice Chair of the Sudbury Area Council.
Kingsley.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kingsley Kwok. I am the Region 5 co-chair of OPSEU SEFPO's Coalition of Racialized Workers, and I am an executive board member of the Toronto and York Region Labour Council.
Marjorie.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here as well. My name is Marjorie Nelson, and I'm a human rights officer in the equity unit at OPSEU. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I live in Ottawa. I'm going to introduce our panelists here. So our first one is Elizabeth Ha, and most of you know Elizabeth. Elizabeth is the Region 1 representative of the Coalition of Racialized Workers and the first vice chair. She is a longtime OPSEU activist. She's a former chair of the OPSEU Human Rights Committee, and she had a position in the OFL. She has been fighting for migrant rights, human rights, worker rights, oppressed people's rights everywhere. Elizabeth has been here fighting for equity rights, I'd say, for 20 or more years, and she doesn't know how to stop, and that is good for all of us. I wish we had more Elizabeth Haas in our union, and then we could change a lot more. Now, next I'll introduce Ahmad. So Ahmad Husseini is a Lebanese Canadian. He lives in Ottawa. He's married with 3 children. He's been here for over 50 years since he came from Lebanon. He's very involved in Arab and community student organizations. He's engaged with the Canadian Council for Palestine, Ottawa, and the Ottawa Coalition for Gaza. And I'd say, and our third panelist, Lori, she has lived in Ottawa since 2000. She has been a union member for QB for 18 years. Lori has spent a lot of time fighting for human rights and for activists, and she decided also to go to Gaza. She's someone that you find always in demonstration, and she's not afraid to put herself on the line. And our fourth panelist, Ammar, he's a Canadian from a Palestinian origin. He's also in Ottawa. He's a passionate leader, longtime organizer in Ottawa's Palestinian community, driven by his deep commitment to justice and human rights. He began his activism through community, through the students' groups such as the Students Against Apartheid, SAIA, and Solidarity for Palestine Human Rights Group, SPHR. Over the years, he remained deeply involved in community efforts through APAC, the Association of Palestinian Arab Canadian, which focuses on uniting Palestinians through social, cultural, and more political action. He's also a licensed professional engineer and unionized, working in the city of Ottawa. I'm just gonna give, before even we start, if each one of the panelists takes 30 seconds or 10 seconds just to say hi to everyone and welcome people to the webinar, and then we can start our presentation and questions. Ahmed, you want to go first? I've just seen first on my screen.
Sure, sure. Yeah. So my name is Ahmed Al Husseini. Thank you for the introduction, Ala, and thank you for the opportunity.
And Elizabeth?
Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Ha. I want to say thank you to everyone that is on here joining us. And I want to thank the equity committees that supported this webinar and endorsed it. And thank you, Ala, for all the work that you've done. Thank you.
And Lori, you want to say a couple of words?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. It's a privilege for me to be here tonight and share my stories and of going to Egypt, but also just to be part of this group and sharing on such a community-based level.
Thank you, Lori. Ammar?
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Ala and the rest of the panel for having us. And I hope that we can shed some light on this trip and answer people's questions tonight.
Thank you very much. We're going to go back to the presentation. And Lindsay, you can take it from here.
So I'm just going to quickly go over some of the resolutions that were passed at the Ontario Federation, National Union of Public and General Employees, and OPSEU SEFPO conventions over the past couple of years. So on the screen now is a photo of part of the resolution that was passed at the OFL convention in November of 2023. It supports an immediate ceasefire in Israel and Palestine, for an end to Israel's blockade of Gaza, and for the restoration of aid and the basic necessities of life. Encourage the federal government to call for an immediate ceasefire to the Israel-Palestine conflict, and to donate aid and emergency humanitarian support that is desperately needed in Palestine. And this one directly applies to what we're doing here today, is organize member education about the long history of Israel's occupation of Palestinian territory, Canada's complicity, and what trade unions can do to support a just and lasting peace. Next slide, please, Ala. Thank you. So this is part of the OPSEU SEFPO policy that was updated in February of 2025 that came out of a resolution that was submitted by equity committees. It is changed OPSEU policy. It passed at the board. And we can go through here. Condemns the killing of unarmed civilians. It deplores any racist, anti-Semitic, or Islamophobic statements or acts against Muslims, Jews, Palestinians, Arabs, or Israelis in Canada and internationally. It demands an immediate end to Israel's blockade, bombing, and invasion of Gaza, and the mass detentions and killing of Palestinian civilians in the West Bank. Demands that the Canadian government call for an immediate ceasefire, restoration of humanitarian aid and essential services to the people of Gaza, and the immediate release of all hostages, political prisoners, and individuals held in detention without charge by Israel and Hamas. Calls for a Canadian and international ban on all financing, manufacturing, sale, or transportation of arms and military equipment, components, or technology to Israel. And it continues. And I think that the main part here that we're focusing on is that encourages OPSEU SEFPO locals, area councils, and other bodies and our labor community allies, including the OFL, NUPCHI, and the CLC, to advocate, mobilize, and build the public campaign for the positions outlined above. And you can read this whole thing in the OPSEU manual. And here is the resolution that that policy change came out of, and it was in support of the BDS campaign, which is boycott, divestment, and sanctions. And the main part of this resolution is that to demand an immediate ceasefire, the immediate release of all hostages, political prisoners, and civilians held without charge, and that the state of Israel end the siege of Gaza and occupation in the West Bank, and dismantle the apartheid wall and Israeli settlements in the West Bank, and fully comply with international law, including United Nations Resolution 194, which calls for the right of return to Palestinian refugees. Next, please. And this was just passed in June of 2025 at NUPCHI Convention. OPSEU is a part of NUPCHI. It's a national union that encompasses most of the public sector unions. And it was submitted by the BC General Employees Union, and we voted on the floor and it passed. It was a very big moment. And the resolution was that NUPCHI will lobby the Canadian government to call for an immediate ceasefire in the Israel-Palestine conflict, an end to Israel's blockade of Gaza, allowing restoration of aid and basic necessities of life, and to release all hostages, and call for an end to Canada's arms sales to Israel, while supporting all Canadian and international trade union efforts and initiatives to end arms shipments to Israel, and support the Palestinian people's right to self-determination and their demands to an end Israel's military occupation and colonization, and work with unions and civil society to demand the Canadian government exert pressure on Israel to stop violations of international law and end building and expanding settlements in the occupied Palestinian territories, and educate members on positions of solidarity our union takes independently or through NUPCHI and the Canadian Labour Congress.
Taylor, you can go ahead.
Thanks, Ella. So everyone, tonight we are going to be using the following question protocol for after our panelists to ask our panelists questions. So we ask you to use the Q&A feature in your Zoom room. Please type your questions into the Q&A box across the bottom of your toolbar. We will try our best to answer as many questions as we can, though our time is limited after the screening. We will not respond to any questions that are not in keeping with our statement of respect, belittle our Palestinian union members and coworkers who are experiencing ongoing apartheid, genocide, and ethnic cleansing, or demonstrate anti-Palestinian racism, anti-Semitism, or any other form of racism. Please be respectful to all of our presenters and guests. If your questions fail to follow the statement of respect, you will be removed from the meeting. Due to the privacy of the material and parts of our presentation, for privacy and security purposes, we will not be showing the slides in their entirety. This presentation is delivered from an anti-colonialist perspective.
Thank you, Taylor. I'm going to speak about a little bit, just very short introduction about what's happening. But before we start, just want to warn everyone that you are going to hear some very things that are tough, uneasy, and they could hit your emotions very hard. And if you find it hard to hear or see some of the videos that we're showing, take some time for self-care. Take some time to take care of yourself. This is a warning, again, because the things that you see are emotionally tough. You're going to see some people suffering. You're going to see some violence. You're going to hear about some violence, and we can't just not speak about what's happening. I'm not going to speak about the history, about what's happening. We do educationals about Palestine. It has been colonized since by the British, and after that, the state of Israel was created on the ruins of the Palestinian villages with 750,000 Palestinian refugees who have been deported from there. If you want to know more about the history, we'll put it in the chat. Local 415 Algonquin College Faculty Union is showing tomorrow. There's a screening of Where the Olive Trees Weep, 6:30 presentation, 70 screening on Kinema. And on Zoom. We'll post a link. You can join us for hearing a bit about the history. Right now, just from the United Nations Office for Coordination of Human Rights Affairs states that the number of, as of the 9th of July, is 57,680 people have been murdered in Gaza because of the Israel military campaign and the Israel bombing and the siege. Of those, 17,121 are children, 24,1818 are men, 9,126 women, 4,137 are elderly. This number has jumped to close to 59,000, according to the Palestinian Health Department. However, these are the ones who are known. The estimates, there's about 10 to 30,000 people who are missing and are probably also gone. And these are people, they're not numbers. This picture is showing you just the current situation since the 9th, and pretty much these areas are the areas that where all the checkpoints are closed. It is showing you the white areas are where the Palestinians still are, and then these are areas under displacement order by the Israeli army in orange. Areas under extra are more various displacement orders, evacuation orders, or Israel have forces in those areas. So everyone is stuck there, and some towns have been actually removed. The picture on the side was just a picture of two Palestinian kids lying down under the rubble of their bombed house, because that is the place where they can stay. Now, I was just speaking with one of my Canadian Palestinian friends whose families in Gaza, and they have been in tents in Khan Yunis for a while, and they're moving from one place to another. My banker is also Palestinian, and she, when I asked her recently what happened with you, she said, I lost my brother in the bombing. So I said, my condolences. I'm so sorry. She says, well, that's not bad. My husband lost 15 members of his family. So one of the issues that Israel has been targeting journalists and healthcare workers. This union represents so many healthcare workers. Let's see the short videos about the targeting of healthcare workers, and it'll just set up what we're going to speak about.
ايوه حبيبي
Paramedics and journals shouldn't be a target. So, one last thing to remind you, this is not random. This is intentional, and there has been so many leaders of Israel calling for genocide in Gaza, and South Africa has documented in their court case for the International Court of Justice, the genocide case against Israel, and the South African High Commissioner, Mr. Racialized, when he joined us last December, he spoke in detail about this. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, his former defense minister are wanted for war criminals for the International Court of Justice. We're going to show a small interview of 30 seconds. This interview was with the former Deputy Speaker of the Knesset, Moshe Feiglin. He was in the Likud party, and Moshe Feiglin, he's not a nobody. He said he was the former Deputy Speaker of the Knesset. He ran against Benjamin Netanyahu more than once, at least twice, for the leadership of the Likud party. This was an interview in May in Hebrew with Channel 14. Channel 14 in Israel is pretty much the speaker of, it's viewed as the speakers of Netanyahu and the Israeli government. You can see the title.
אני אומר לך יותר מזה, כל ילד, כל תינוק בעזה הוא אויב. האויב הוא לא החמאס, והוא גם לא הזרוע הצבאית של החמאס, כמו שהפצ"רית שלנו מספרת לנו שאסור לנו לפגוע בחמאסניק, אלא אם כן הוא חלק מהזרוע הצבאית. כל ילד בעזה הוא האויב. אנחנו צריכים לכבוש את עזה וליישבה, ושלא יישאר שם ילד עזתי אחד. אין ניצחון אחר.
Let me repeat what Moshe Feiglin, that sentence, what he said in Hebrew. Kol yeled, kol tinoch be'aza royev. Every child, every baby in Gaza is an enemy. So this is, and you will hear some more from our panelists. So this is just to give you a bit of what's happening. We're going to move to the questions section, and the way we're going to do this is we're going to alternate asking these preset questions first before we go to the audience, and we're going to give each one of our panelists roughly about 3 minutes to speak. I can call on them. Kingsley, you can take the first question.
Hi, Ala. Are you doing the stopwatch or am
I? For this one, I will do it. For the others, you should.
Okay, all right. This is the first question for all the panelists. I just want to do a sound check. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So for the panelists, why did you decide to go on the march? What did you hope to achieve?
I mean, we can go alphabetically, so we'll go with the first name. We'll go with Ahmed first.
Please unmute.
Thank you, Kingsley. Yes, on March 11th, I had the honor to be part of the March to Gaza alongside more than 100 courageous Canadians from across Canada. It was an opportunity that I would never have missed. I had a call from the actually it was a chat about what should be happened a few months ago. Just 3 months prior to our March to Gaza, I spoke with the coordinator, Manuel, in Montreal, and he was telling me about the fact that there could be a March to Gaza. I said, count me in. It's something that had been boiling within me, just like the rest of us. We have seen the videos that Ala just showed us. It's the unimaginable genocide streamed live before our eyes. Command from each one of us to express our emotions and our wrath, and more than anything else, our sympathy, our solidarity with Gaza and with Palestine. So I took this opportunity and went to Gaza. I always believed in the power of humanity to impact and influence change in history. As we all know, this is a battle, not only a political battle. It's it's a battle between the powers of colonialism, of establishments, of arms dealers, arms manufacturers, establishments, ruling classes on one side. On the other side, you have people, ordinary people, whose interests are not influenced by this in the terms that establishments take positions with Israel, financing and funding this genocide because they see their economic, financial, whatever interest lie in supporting this and funding this genocide. It's shameful, but this is the truth. This is from one side, I have been part of the demonstrations, all the protests that happened in Ottawa for the past, ever since it started, almost 2 years ago. We started our protest on the streets of Ottawa almost every week. Every week we have been protesting. We have been seeing our Canadian friends in increasing numbers week after week. But then came the March to Gaza. It's to me, it was a step to make true this sympathy and that solidarity that I have for Gaza and for Palestine come true, and I joined. I believe that it was something that if I missed it, I would have regretted it for the rest of my life. It was a lesson that maybe we can elaborate on later. I will let other panelists talk about their experience as well, but as far as I'm concerned, it was an opportunity that will stay with me for the rest of my life, with all the bitterness, but lessons that we learned and impacted along the way.
Thank you very much, Ahmed. To the rest of the panelists, would you like me to repeat the question, or are you good to go? I believe the next panelist is Elizabeth.
Thank you, Kingsley. No, I'm good. So I guess there's a few reasons why I went. Number one, I am Canadian, so I know that my tax dollars are contributing to this genocide and killing children. Also, I'm a union activist, and as an activist, I feel it is a responsibility and my duty to show up and do what I can. And seeing the unions around the world, unions have been at the forefront of fighting for justice internationally and for the Palestinian people for many years. And historically, unions have always been on the right side of history. And I was watching, workers all over the world standing up and doing something. Last year, 7 major US labor unions representing over 6 million workers called on the Biden administration to halt all military funding to Israel. Greek dock workers, trade unionists stopped a container carrying bullets for Israel's use in its genocide from being loaded, and the vessel was forced to leave without the cargo. Moroccan dock workers, trade unionists refused to load a ship with military cargo. Unionists and workers from a number of countries have been refusing to unload Israeli ships and exports. This is what unions have been doing, and trade unions and trade union federations across the world have endorsed BDS as a key form of solidarity with Palestinian workers. And I feel that for me as a union activist, I wanted to do my part. And I think the other reason, like more on a personal note, I'm a mother. I'm a mother of 2 young kids. If you're on this webinar and you know me, you know my kids. They go with me everywhere. And for the last couple of years, it's been so difficult to see this happening. I see, children under rubbles of these buildings that have been bombed, just an arm sticking out. They're still alive, hoping for someone to save them. Mothers holding their children with no heads. Like, this is not just one, it is over and over. People being burned alive in buildings, in schools, in what they call safe zones. Kids picking up pieces of their siblings. They have the highest number of amputated children. And these images of children and babies just shaking and, losing their families. It's something that, I just couldn't sit there and do nothing. And I guess what I was hoping to achieve is, to be able to be there with thousands of other people that understood how important this was, and to somehow get international attention and get this aid into Gaza, to get food in there. Yeah, so that's why I did what I did.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I think we can hear from Ammar.
Hi, everyone. So it's very general to talk about why would someone do something like this, to go to the march or to go to a protest or to even post on their Instagram story something about Palestine. But it comes down to the fact that we all are witnessing a live genocide right now. This genocide is a bit unique than previous ones, that in the way that it's on Instagram, it's in your social networks feed, it's in your mobile phone, on your TV, on all these screens that we're surrounded with. And it's heartbreaking, to be honest, that the entire world has access to this. Yet we are allowing it to continue. How are we allowing it to continue? By not doing something to stop it. One of my favorite quotes is that the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. It's a bit of an outdated quote. I would change men with people. If you see injustice and you do nothing, you are helping that injustice to continue. And that's what it boils down to. And this genocide did not start in the last 21 months. This has been happening for the last 77 years. This genocide did not start in Gaza in 2023. It started with the Nakba in 1948. I would encourage all of you after this to just do some research about 1948, one specific documentary. I think there's a 2-minute video about it on YouTube. It's called Tantura. If you just search Tantura 2022, you will see it. I'm just going to quote you what some of these Israeli soldiers, they were much older when that documentary was made, but I'm just going to quote some of what they said. Everything I'm about to say is stuff that they said, just for you to realize how severe the situation is. One of them are telling the interviewer, and he says, one of the soldiers raped a 16-year-old girl, and then he started laughing about it. Then he says, one of the soldiers, he took them, he's referring to the Palestinians, and put them in a cage and killed them all. And the last quote I'm going to say, one of the soldiers talking about himself, he's saying, if school kids stood up and raised their hands to surrender, that is, and I saw them that day, I would have killed them all. So this is 1948, and the world ignored it then, and we allowed it to continue until today. So silence allows these things to continue and to keep happening. And that's why I've joined this. We can't remain silent when we see this kind of injustice, right? Because that happened without punishment, without consequences, and it kept happening. And now they are just getting worse and worse. All of you are seeing what's happening in Gaza. And it's mind-blowing how was this allowed to continue for 21 months. And we all claim these morals, like we live in a country like Canada, where we claim morals and value for human life and value for human rights, yet we allow this to continue for 21 months. That's a bit mind-blowing for me. So me, myself, as one person, I will do everything I can, everything that is in my power to try to stop this. And now, would that march have stopped the genocide? No. I'm not naive to think that one march would have stopped it. Like I'm not naive to think that next Saturday when we go on a protest, that would stop it. But it's an accumulation of actions. Every action matters. Every protest, every action, every post you post, every conversation you have with a coworker, with a neighbor, with a friend, to educate them and open their eyes to what's happening. The accumulation of all these actions, I am sure, will help free Palestine, will help bring justice to this world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ammar. Lori, again, why did you decide to go to the march and what did you hope to achieve?
Yeah, thank you. The decision for me to be part of the Canadian delegation and go on this walk was made because I've been watching what's been happening on the screens, like someone mentioned, and it's progress has just been taking too long. So every progress has been too slow, and we've been watching Israel's actions getting more and more outrageous. And so it's just been too slow. And then when I heard about this, I thought, wow, here's an opportunity. And I'm from a place of privilege to put myself out there and make a statement. And I have always believed in the power of collective action. And I do believe that more direct action was going to be required to make the change that's needed. And so to be part of that was really interesting to me. And so we didn't have much time to decide. And I told my daughter one day about what I wanted to do. And she said, well, just sleep on it, Mom. And that night I could not sleep. I couldn't think of anything else. And so I woke up in the morning realizing that if I don't do this, I'm going to regret not doing it. It just seemed like it was it was an action that would be at least one more step in an attempt to stop the genocide and the humane blockade. And it was just heartbreaking every day to see intentional starving of children and constant killing. And so I just wanted to do something. And so what did I hope to achieve? Well, seeing on my screens hundreds of trucks sitting outside the Rafah border, just waiting to enter, but being denied, it just made me so angry. And so what I wanted to do was to march to that border and apply pressure on the Egyptian government to open it up and feed the people and show that they some dignity in life. So that's why I went.
Thank you, Lori. Let me just share my screen. Okay. So before we ask the second question, I'm just going to do like a bit of a prelude to this question. I'm going to read the question. I'm going to show a couple of videos. We're going to show a couple of videos and speak. Why are we asking this question? The question says, what challenges did the March to Gaza delegation face while in Egypt? We understand some participants have their passports confiscated. We have the panelists to speak. We see here the picture on the left where there are some of the participants in the delegations were their passports were confiscated and they're waiting. On the right, you see Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. This is the military dictator of Egypt who has been there for 12 years, and you see it's written there, colonization 2.0. So the first type of colonization, there were colonizers like the British Empire, the French Empire, the Germans, the Italians, the Spanish. They colonized countries in Africa, Asia, and North America, and they occupied it. They either settled or they sent their military, and they stayed there for a while. The new form of colonization is to have a puppet regime where you have someone there who is running as a dictator, who just takes his orders from the colonizers, does what he wants. Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is nothing but a puppet in the hands of the American authorities and also the Israeli authorities. He came by a military coup. He's been there for 12 years. Talk to Egyptians. They'll tell you that he drove the country to the ground. There are lots of other puppet regimes in Jordan, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, but a lot of those are on the good side of the United States and Israel. So you don't hear much about them. You're only going to hear about Venezuela or Iran as oppressive regimes. You don't hear about that. So unfortunately, what happened is the Egyptian police and the Egyptian forces did all they can to stop this march from reaching Gaza, including using violence to detain people and to deport them and to take their passports, something that we did not even expect. We're not speaking about the Egyptian people. The Egyptian people are great, good people. It's a dictatorship government that have been installed by the American authorities and also the Israeli authorities. So and they withdrew government. There's a few pictures that we got from Elizabeth. When Elizabeth can speak in a little bit, she's going to explain why these pictures of the people detained. Now, there are a few videos with some of the violence that we're seeing here by the Egyptian police, where they're trying to take. Can you hear the audio? Okay, let's see even worse things. This is from Elizabeth while everyone was waiting. And as it rolls up, you're going to see the military police. Okay. Now, from the people who went there were members of the parliaments. Nelson Mandela's grandson, Mandela Mandela, went there. This is a statement after the passports have been confiscated. Actually, this is a little bit of violence. We're going to see the Egyptian police taking people to detain them. All this to be complicit in the genocide in Gaza. We'll see Nelson Mandela,
where they talked about that they would never bomb a hospital, and now there are almost no remaining functioning hospitals in Gaza.
Apologize. So this is Mandela Mandela.
The situation right now in Cairo, we are about an hour out of Cairo, and our passports have been confiscated, and we are held here at one of the checkpoints without being permitted to proceed.
So what Mandela Mandela, a member of the South African Parliament, grandson of Nelson Mandela, said, we were an hour away from Cairo. I apologize for the volume. This is the best we can get. And or their passports have been confiscated at a checkpoint. What you see right now, the next one is, you're going to see, unfortunately, a bit of violence that happened from the Egyptian Sisi's police against Farouk Dink, who is a member of the Turkish parliament.
Müdahale sonrası milletvekilimiz Faruk Dink yaralandı, başından aldığı bir cisimle.
This language that you're hearing is Turkish.
Your doctor, abi doktordur. Mersin milletvekilimiz Faruk Dink askerler tarafından atılan cisimle yaralandı. Şu an alan dışına çıkardık.
He's diplomat, Turkish diplomat.
Okay. Gonna go back to the question just to help our panelists. I'm just gonna go back. Okay. And what happened with the delegations there, you know, especially some of the Western countries, if someone was there not for the purpose of supporting Palestine, the Palestinian cause, and something happened there, we know our governments will interfere, but they took a step to the side. I'm going to start with Elizabeth this time because we see some of the slides. So these are some of the pictures that you took, Elizabeth. Floor is all yours.
Yeah, these are pictures and videos of what was on my phone. I think I was one of the lucky ones that still had some of this. There was video, there's no videos. I was at checkpoint 1, so there was a lot of violence. I wasn't able to record it because if your phone was out recording, I mean, you were like a target. They would just lunge at you and take your phone, smash it and everything. But I mean, I know just like the rest of the speakers, we all face different challenges. From the minute I boarded the plane, it was like we weren't able to bring, keffiyehs or anything to show that we were part of the march. Every time I had Wi-Fi, I checked my phone and, there was a message like change hotels. I must have changed my hotels several times. And the reason is that information was getting leaked out and we were being told that, you have to change your hotel because, they're looking for participants from this march. Honestly, I knew a little bit, I think more from what Allah, shared with me before I left that, Egyptian authorities are not going to be friendly. So I'm like, okay, whatever. When I got there, immediately getting off the plane, I'm thinking, okay, I made it. And I knew through, my travels, people were being questioned at different in Germany, wherever like they had connecting flights. I didn't have any issues until I got to Cairo, where, someone asked me, for my passport, all sorts of questions. And I just pretended I was a tourist. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go see the pyramids, whatever. And I got to my hotel, and the first night, I went to get something to eat, and I was followed by, somebody. I didn't realize until after it was police that was in regular clothes. And our delegation tried to meet up several times, and the one incident we were told to meet at this rooftop of a hotel. And I'm heading there, and right away I get a message saying, turn around, don't go there. They're surrounded by police, military. And I'd found out once I got home, the 2 people that got there first was the organizers, and they were picked up. They put a t-shirt over his head, blindfolded him, threw him in a vehicle and took him to police station, I'm assuming. And he was questioned there. They took his phone. So, I mean, in those days, we were losing people. People are being picked up, detained, deported. Finally, they said, we can't, the goal was to get to El Arish. A bus was supposed to take us there. We ended up having to find our own transportation to another place, which was like a hostel camp. And I took the Uber, and right at checkpoint 1, I was stopped, and there was military everywhere, police, and this guy just stuck his head into the vehicle, took my passport, and, I think it was around 12, and we were there for over 12 hours. It was over 100-degree heat. And finally, like we found a little bit of shade, but we were left with no water, no food. They started barricading us. This is where, the pictures that you're seeing, that's where we all were. I think majority of the people detained would have been in checkpoint 2. And yeah, if you were on my Facebook, you would have seen my posts. I tried to keep posting. Yeah, it was just, I wasn't scared or anything, but I was not expecting them to put so much money and resources into stopping this march from happening. I will say, when I was posting, at one point I had to turn my phone off, and then I had my other phone, and other Canadians that were with me was calling the emergency global affairs, the emergency line, and giving them our information, name, and all the stuff. And I know from what I posted, my union, a lot of people, they were at a convention and they were calling this emergency line. I mean, I think there must have been hundreds of calls, even from the community in Windsor. It was all over social media. And I was one of the only people that received a call on my phone from the embassy in Cairo. And the other 3 Canadians I was with was constantly calling. And I'm sharing this because I want people to know that people have the power. I mean, I wouldn't have gotten that call, and I was the only one that didn't call the emergency line. And they were like, "Are you okay?" And I explained, "This is what's happening. We need help." And the response was, "Okay, we'll try to be safe." And that was it. And I just thought, this is crazy. My own government have left me there, knowing the situation. And I know that there was other people from other countries, when they called, people showed up for them to get their passport, take them out of that situation. And that just shows the complicity, it just shows that our government is, knows what's happening, and they play a part in this genocide. And so, I mean, there was a number of challenges for us to stop us from getting even halfway to the checkpoint. So, and yes, I was roughed up. And then once, there was a woman, she had her phone out, and they were just pulling her hair, throwing her to the ground. At one point, I thought they were going to hit her, because I saw his hand go up. And I just threw my body over her, and I just started screaming. I got scared, and I just kept screaming, "No." And I think he got mad, and then he stopped, but then I was next. And then, I had my backpack. That's all I had. And he grabbed my backpack, threw me to the ground, grabbed my neck. It was just like I was a rag doll. And I just thought, I'm going to die right now. And they ended up throwing me on a bus. We sat there, for over an hour. And once the bus started moving, I thought we were going to the airport, and I checked my map, and I see we're passing the airport. I'm thinking, okay, we're good. We're not going to get deported. And the bus stopped, and the police that was on the bus just screamed at me and told me to get off the bus. And there was 4 females that was kicked off the bus, and we were left in the middle of nowhere, just outside of Cairo. And then the bus drove off, and I found out after that's what they did with everyone. They just dropped off, a couple of people here and there, and just kept going. Yeah, so that was my challenge.
Okay.
I'm sure other people can share their stories.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Let's say maybe I see Lori, you want to go ahead?
Okay. I didn't have quite the experience that Elizabeth had, and luckily. But we were in Egypt. It didn't take very long for us to realize that they didn't want us there, and that they were tracking us through our passports. And it seemed like everywhere we went, there were people following us, and they made it inconvenient, and they tried to delay whatever they thought we were up to. So the hotels were reporting to the government, and then security and plainclothes officers would come to the hotel and confront people. I got confronted on the street, demand your passport, and asked, where are you going? And when you tell them that you're being a tourist, they say, "Oh, you're lying, you're lying." So I'm going to the pyramids. You're lying, you're lying. And this is sometimes right in the middle of the street where people are walking by, and it was pretty stressful. I was buddied with a gentleman from Montreal, and he's from Lebanon, and so he spoke Arabic to the officers. And they made him undo his backpack on this right in the middle of the street, take everything out, and then once everything was out, he made him put it back in. So after a bunch of hassling, they took him aside, and he had to give him the code to his phone, and they scrolled through the phone and found out that when our signal chat, and so they knew absolutely that we were here for the protest. And when all of that happened, the officer said to Kareem, "Oh, you should have just told us in the first place. I would have respected you if you would have just told me the truth." Now, we don't believe we don't believe that the officer was telling the truth at that point, that you just admit up front that we were there for the protest. So I wasn't quite used to being confronted on the street and so publicly like that. But some of the violence we saw at the checkpoint too, pushing and shoving and dragging people away, and then being surrounded by police in riot gear. And then as soon as they got rid of a few people, then they stepped forward and were making the circle closer and closer. So it did get pretty tense. Some of us decided that, or they told us that if we stayed, that we would be arrested. And so people had to make the decision for themselves whether they were going to stay or not, and that the Egyptian government had kindly provided buses for anybody who wanted to leave. And so we stayed. And then I think after a while, they said, well, gee, not that many people left. What are we going to do with them now? And so then it just became quicker as far as moving in, getting rid of some people, moving in. And so me and my partner, we just decided to get on one of the buses. There were two other Canadians that went on that bus with us. And the rest of the bus was full of people from the Netherlands. So we got chatting with them on the bus, and it was really interesting talking to them and learning about their activism. And then all of a sudden the bus stopped and said, "We're not going any farther. Get out." And so we all did, but it was right. We could see Cairo in the distance, and they stopped us, or they let us off at a place that was very easy to get public transport from there. So we were not part of the group that got dropped in the middle of nowhere and just had to figure out themselves. It was very easy just to grab an Uber from there. Let's see. I think that's pretty much what I wanted to share about the challenges.
Thank you so much, Lori. I mean, there's some other questions coming.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Elizabeth, for sharing your experience. Ammar, do you want to share your experience? We're getting tighter on time, so if you can be like compacted to 5-6 minutes, if you can, 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
But this is
Absolutely.
one of the big important parts. We want people to say what they want to say.
If you allow me, I'm gonna kind of divert and talk about something else because
Go ahead.
people will hear the experience and it's more or less similar. Actually, Elizabeth and Laurie, in the context, relatively speaking, one of the lucky ones that did not have one of their legs broken, like someone I saw, or injured or taken to a black site. But some of you might be hearing this right now and might be thinking, well, you go to a foreign country and you break their laws, what do you expect? So allow me to give you some background about this march. And I was part of the organizing committee. All Egyptian embassies all over the world knew about this. There were delegations going to the Egyptian embassies, including here in Ottawa, going to the ambassador and telling them about this movement, making sure that we're trying to do everything according to the Egyptian law. We were not going there to break Egyptian law. We were not going there to cause any trouble for Egypt as a country. So I want to make that clear off the bat. The response was that from all over the world, not just from Canada, that we are welcome to go to Egypt. Now, access to Sinai was not guaranteed, understood. Sinai is where we're trying to go so that we can go to the borders. But we were welcome to go to Egypt, and that was the message that we received by all the Egyptian embassies all over the world. And once we got there, they released a statement, Egypt as a government, that no one can access Sinai without a permission because it's a military zone. A decision that we, as international committee, not just as a Canadian delegation, respected. And we decided that we will not try to access Sinai without having permission to do so first. And a lot of our organizers were trying to apply for these permissions. Now, the events you are hearing about, they happened while we, 4,000 people from all over the world, were legally in Egypt. We applied for a tourist visa. We got that visa. And we went sightseeing, indeed. And we, as 4,000 people, decided to go from one city to another outside of Sinai, outside of the area that is a military zone, outside of the area that we would not be allowed to go to. So we, at every single step on the way, we were within Egyptian law. We did not break a single law. So now going back to what happened, the group went from Cairo to Ismailia, which is where we were gathering. Just like any tourist would apply to a visa to Canada, be granted, and arrive in Ottawa and decide to go to Montreal. This is all legally. And that's when people were stopped. Anyone who's a foreigner were getting stopped, where their passport taken, thrown under the sun. It's very hot there. I know Ottawa is a bit hot, but Egypt is much hotter than that. Without water, without food, they left some people under the sun for hours. I look Arab, I am Arab, I speak Arabic. So I managed to actually make it past 3 checkpoints and reach the destination, Ismailia, where we noticed a huge police presence. So I went to a coffee shop because I wasn't going to just walk with my own feet to the police. I was with 4 other Canadians. We sat in a coffee shop, and then we decided that we need to kind of leave the area. We'll just go to a hotel to figure out what's happening. As we are getting an Uber from the coffee shop, police in plain clothing just grabbed us by the arms. And it's a bit weird when you get approached by someone in plain clothes, because if this happened to you in Canada, you'd think it's a thug or someone who's trying to steal you and you'd want to fight back. But we knew ahead of time that there are police in plain clothing. They just asked to see IDs, again, for not breaking any laws, for drinking coffee at a coffee shop. Once they took our passports, they dragged us walking and they threw us on the side of the road, where we found other foreigners, all just like sitting on the ground with police surrounding them. And the events after that, it varies between people literally getting their limbs broken to people getting to taken. Only few people were taken to black sites. It wasn't even police stations. Talked to them after, where they got questioned. One person who was part of the international committee organizers was tortured. The rest of us will be either kind of, we're basically kidnapped. We were forced into buses. When I told the officers I would not like to get into a random bus going to the unknown, because they would not tell us where they're taking us, without having at least my passport back, he called 2 of his soldiers, or we had both regular police and military police, and both of them took me into the bus by force. And then sometimes they'll ask you for your phone. You have two options. You either give them your passcode so that they can go through your phone, through every single picture, through whatever they want to go through. They will just have access fully to your phone. And then if you refuse to give them your passcode, you will not see your phone again. And even when you give them your passcode, and for certain people, they would wipe the phone clean, making you lose everything, and then give it back to you. So all this was done to people who were there legally, who broke no Egyptian laws. Because I asked one of the sergeants there, I was like, hey, and I spoke to him in Arabic. I was like, I just would like to know what law am I breaking so that you're doing all this to me? He looked at me confused, like, well, I can't think of any laws you've broken, but I have my orders. So it's really interesting to see the degree they're willing to go to, even when we are not doing anything. We did not go to Rafah, we did not go to Sinai. That tells you how scared of a system that is, how complicit they are. And I want to end with our Canadian government. Unfortunately, the response from our Canadian government was very, very shameful. I was someone who reached to some MPs and reached to the emergency hotline and sent some emails. And after explaining everything that I explained to you guys right now, I received an email saying, well, we told people not to go to Sinai. That tells you I did not even read my email. We did not go to Sinai. We did not attempt to go to Sinai. And that's the response I got. One of our Canadian members, not lost his passport. They took his passport and they lost his passport, or they just refused to give it back to him. So he had to sleep on the street for a few nights. Now you say, why? What's the correlation between your passport and sleeping on the street? You cannot take any hotel or any Airbnb or anything in Egypt without your passport. If you do not have your passport, no hotel will allow you in. So he contacted the embassy. The embassy took 4 days until they gave him a travel document or a temporary passport. Now, I was once on a trip just for tourism in Costa Rica with a friend of mine, and he got his passport stolen. It took the Canadian embassy 3 hours to give him a replacement. So I don't know why it did take them 4 days in Egypt. That tells you again that our government did not really take care of us there. They did not care that we're being kidnapped. Some of us are being injured. Some of us having their passports taken, not returned, and they completely ignored us. And I'll stop now just for the sake of time.
Thank you so much. Ahmad, if you want to go ahead.
Thank you. I will try to be brief because Lori, Elizabeth, and Ammar have gone into details of what really happened to us when we reached Egypt. We knew what to expect, but not to that extent. As you know, I am an Arab, and I have been to Egypt several times. I've been at least 5-6 times to Egypt, and as many Arabs, we are influenced by Egyptian culture and civilization. Egypt was ahead of its times in the 50s and 60s, 70s. So we were mostly influenced by Egypt. But this experience has injected so much bitterness into my mouth as an Arab, as a human being, that let me put it this way. Really, we were treated like fugitives and criminals. Some of us who were interrogated like criminals. You only interrogate criminals this way. We were met with intimidation and even violence. I was one of the lucky ones. When we were instructed to go from Cairo to Ismailia, which is 2 hours away, most of us have taken the Uber and taxis. I couldn't find an Uber because most of us were suffering that there are no one is responding from Uber. So I knew my way. So I took the train from Cairo to, I went to Ramses station, and then I took the train, which was much cheaper than taxi, but there were no cops. Because we were connected through a signal chat, I was following up what was happening, because eventually what we agreed on, that we meet at a hotel in Ismailia, and we all gather there and plan the next step. But while I was on the train, I knew of the checkpoints, the police checkpoints, and the the way they dealt with the delegation members and the intimidation they imposed on them. It was really and we made clear our mission, that it is peaceful and will not even deal with anything related to the Egyptian government. We are not there to disrupt peace and stability. We are there to raise the voice for humanity, coming from all the way from Canada, coming from Europe, more than 4,000 people coming into Egypt to raise the voice on behalf of humanity to allow unrestricted flow of humanitarian aid into Gaza and allow for a humanitarian corridor. That was our mission. That was our goal. Nothing to do with what we think about Sisi and his regime. Now, we all knew what Sisi is. As you said, Sisi is nothing but a puppet to the imperialists. It's a regime beholden to imperial interests. Contrasted with a country like Turkey. Turkey, for instance, as an ally of the US, it allows for sometimes free expression for protests, even though it shares in the export of food to Israel. Turkey is complicit as a regime, but at least it can allow for freedom of expression on its streets for people to protest and demonstrate. Egypt could never do that. Egypt could never do that. The Egyptian security forces, I had one experience, when I was in Ismailia, because at that point in Ismailia, everyone was back in Cairo. I was by myself in Ismailia. I had the chance to go into a gathering. I heard of a gathering with other delegates, not from Canada, from Malaysia, from Turkey, from Europe. So I went there, and there were security forces. The way they treated all of us is really shameful. I mean, we were telling them that it's all about Gaza. It's all about Gaza. We want to allow humanitarian aid into Gaza. Please help us. And then one or two cops who understand what's going on, they told me, one of them said in Arabic, Ahmed, you know what? Because I was talking Arabic with him. He said, take a taxi and go, because they will confiscate your passports, okay? So 3 of us took a taxi and we fled the scene. But the way they treated us, we felt that we are not peaceful, calling for peace and coming for Gaza, for a noble objective, like allowing for this humanitarian aid. But I want to touch on another point briefly as well. The people of Egypt, the Egyptian people, they showed how empathetic and how supportive and how they are in agreement with our mission when they knew what we were doing. The taxi driver that was crying, he said, Ahmed, only if we are allowed to protest, to show, to cry with Gaza. They are not allowing us. If we leave the streets, 3 cops will arrest us. We can't even gather more than 5 people. Can you imagine? The people on the train, I was when I took the train to Ismailia, again, I had the chance to chat with so many Egyptians. I didn't tell them where I'm coming from, but I would ask the question, why wouldn't you, let's say, do some protesting with Gaza? You know what's happening. And they start crying. They start cursing Sisi and the regime, and in low voice, because there are what they call mukhabarat, security forces everywhere in Egypt. It's flooded with security forces and intelligence people in Egypt. That's how he keeps his regime. And that's how the people are, even the expression, they see it in front of their eyes. Hundreds, if not thousands, of food trucks stuck on the border with Rafah. And yet, some of the Egyptian produce flow into Gaza through other channels. I just realized that in this, most of the latest shipments have come from Egypt. So he is allowing himself to import into. Can you imagine that Egypt exported in the past 20 months produce and food because of what the Ansarullah Houthis in Yemen have imposed an embargo on all the ships in the Red Sea. Egypt was one of the countries that allowed their produce to flow into Israel. What a shameful position from Arab country. That shows that this genocide is not only with the full backing of the United States and with the full complicity of European governments, but also with the complicity of Arab governments like Al-Sisi and the Al-Khalij, the Gulf region. Their normalization of relationship with Israel, not only it was a normalization of ties, it was a treaty to support Israel, to aid Israel, to be complicit. Their inaction and their silence speak volumes about this complicity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. We have a couple more preset questions. We're going to try to be brief because lots of stuff have been covered. Thank you very much. And you know how Elizabeth spoke about what happened there and the conversation that I had with her, and everyone who was here in this went to the march know that they went and they might not come back, because if they reach the Israeli border, there's a good chance that Israel will put their machine, the Israeli army will put their machine gun and they will gun them down. As the march from Gaza, the March for Freedom that happened, there was a peaceful protest in 2021 and hundreds of people were shot by Israel. Let me just share the next question. And
the next question is, what impact do you believe your delegation had, particularly within the progressive movement in Egypt and the broader Arab world?
Whoever wants to speak can. I'm going to pick up maybe on Ammar and Ahmed because they spoke Arabic, and just try to be compact and brief because you covered some of this, and we can move to Elizabeth and Lori. You want to go ahead, Ammar?
Thank you, Ala. While we did not achieve the specific goal we were going for, I think we still made an impact. First of all, showing Palestinians, showing people from Gaza what people are willing to do to support them. 4,000 people traveling from 80 different countries, takes a lot of money and time of work to do this. It just raises their spirit. Secondly, it shows the degree of the complicity of the Egyptian regime and the Egyptian government doing this to just civilians who did not break any laws, any local laws as well, what they were willing to do to just stop them from even trying to sympathize with people under a genocide. Thirdly, we built a big collective. There are now other missions are being announced to do flotillas. There's the Sumud convoy that people heard about, of people going via land to Egypt. So the entire world is doing what they can. I mean, it's not enough, but we're going to keep some people from the world are doing what they can and encourage more and more people to join us to do everything we can to try to put an end to this genocide. Thank you.
Thank you, Ammar. So before I move to Ahmed, I just want to announce just a little bit ago, we had 97 participants. And I think with people in and out, we have reached over 100 people. Thank you very much for attending and for hearing this, that you know how many people are there. Ahmed, if you want to comment and be brief.
Thank you. Can you please take off the
screen share?
Screen?
Yes,
So
sorry.
Okay. No problem. No problem. Okay, so actually for over a week, the dominant story in the Egyptian local media portrayed us as a group of so-called destabilizing agents, because I speak Arabic and I was listening to Arab channels. They called us destabilizing agents rather than peaceful activists coming to Egypt to disrupt public order. However, this narrative sparked a wave of responses from progressive journalists and politicians who pushed back, emphasizing that these individuals, us, had come to raise their voices against the brutal blockade of Gaza and the ongoing genocide carried out by the Zionist state, with full backing from the United States. And, I had the chance to speak with one of the main journalists in Egypt, and I gave him a piece of my mind, and I gave it clear. I made it clear to him how who is the mercenary and who is the destabilizing agent. On the 18th of June, one of the most prominent political parties in Cairo, the Karama, Dignity in English, Karama National Movement, held a press conference on the evening at 6 o'clock on the 18th of June. Some of us might have left already, but I was still there. I left the next day. They held a press conference that was attended by many, many journalists. And it was a major victory for us. It's too bad that it wasn't well published, but they were talking about the delegation. They were talking mostly about the brave, courageous Canadians who came to save Gaza, while we in Egypt cannot even gather 3 people to march and to protest against what's happening in Palestine in general. Gaza as well as the West Bank. It was a major gathering of journalists, progressive journalists, which meant, and there was on the social media as well, there was a flood of support from Egyptians and Arabs, that those people who are coming from all over the world, from Canada, from Europe, those people are courageous. They are coming. It had such a major positive impact on the Egyptian society. Thank you.
For this question, it's just as it was targeted mostly towards Ahmed and Ammar as their Arabic. If Laurie and Elizabeth, you can comment if you want. You don't have to comment if you don't want to.
Just very briefly, it was obviously disappointing that we didn't get to see the goal that we wanted to achieve. But at the same time, I don't think we really believe that we would actually be successful anyway. But it is one more action, and it was collective, it was global, it did bring a lot of attention. And there's more actions happening now, and so it's just the power, and we just have to keep doing it. It's like when all the work and time that it took to get rid of the apartheid government in South Africa, it's a long journey, and we just have to persevere, and whatever we keep trying to do, it's really nothing to compare to the people that we're trying to help in Palestine.
Yeah. Looking at some of the questions here, some of them were covered. We're going to move to the last questions actually about your final thoughts. But before that, maybe there's a couple of questions here. It's kind of related, saying, have there been, from Calvin Klein, have been there any thoughts about protesting outside of Israeli embassies or consulates as means of applying pressure to lift the siege on Gaza? And it has been already happening. If someone wants to touch on that as it related to the march, as protesting here instead of there.
I'll quickly answer.
Yeah.
This might be related directly to the march, but yes, there's always been protests. There have been protests outside the Israeli embassy, at the consulates in Montreal. There are weekly protests in many major Canadian cities. So these things are happening indeed.
Yeah. And there was another question was saying, we were speaking about your experience in Egypt. And even though we explained this, the question is asking, how does that have to do with that with Israel? So my first response is we already explained it. It says Egypt is a puppet regime that is there to serve the imperialists. The Sisi regime is there to serve the imperialists and to serve Israel. And Ammar actually spoke about that a little bit. So even though we spoke a little bit about that, could one of you touch how did this experience relate to the genocide in Gaza? How is the complicity is working between the Egyptian regime and Israel? Any one of you can jump, and I can pick again on Ahmed and Ammar because they're very knowledgeable.
Well, okay, I can start. It's not a complicated situation in the Middle East. You have from one side Israel, which is perpetrating, conducting, carrying out horrors, massacres, atrocities every day against the Palestinians in Gaza, even killing people who are approaching food to get some humanitarian aid. They are killing them. They are murdering children. They are murdering. This is something that we see every day. It's being streamed live every day in front of our eyes. What's the difference? What's the connection with this genocide? Yes, Israel would not have been able to carry out these massacres and continue with this unprecedented genocide against civilians, not against the resistance, against the civilians in Gaza, without, number one, the full backing of the United States, number two, the full complicity and backing of most European governments, number three, the establishment that keep funding the arms manufacturers, that keep funding the genocide with investments, with billions of dollars. Talk about the Canadian government and the CRA's investment of our pension in funding this genocide, and so on. And more than that, as Arabs, we know the connection that happens between many Arab governments, if not most Arab governments, and the United States. It's a simple formula. Al-Sisi regime, the Egyptian regime, believes in the hegemony of the United States in the area. They believe they are puppet. They are a tool in the hands of the Americans, calling for and happy with the hegemony, with the dominance of the United States. They serve the interests of the United States. But guess who is the main ally of the United States in the area that called the shots, that is now invading Syria? Although Syria is asking for a peace treaty for normalization of ties, they keep on bombarding Syria. For Lebanon, against Lebanon. So this connection between Arab regimes, including the Egyptian regime, is an organic one. They are all under the influence of the United States. They believe in the hegemony of the United States over the area. And the United States believe in the hegemony of Israel in the area. So what is the United States doing now? They are supporting, backing, even in this humanitarian, they call humanitarian aid in Gaza now. The Americans are involved in the killing of civilians in Gaza, not only Israelis. The American soldiers, the US soldiers are part of what's happening in Gaza against people who are, they are desperate to get a piece of bread, some flour in order to bake or do something, and they are murdered by not only by Israel, by their backers as well. So the Arab governments are complicit in this because, number one, they are allowing Jordan, Egypt, and the Khalij countries, they are allowing produce, vegetables, fruits, and lots of food produce coming from these countries, coming from Europe to these countries, and then going by trucks to Israel, while Israel is not allowing one truck not a truck, I wouldn't say a truck, one piece of aid that can go into Gaza. They are not allowing it, while trucks are pouring into Israel from these Arab countries. I'm sorry to say it, but this is the fact. The complicity of the Arab governments is this connection with the United States and Israel on the other side.
Thank you very much, Ahmed. So just the key word here, these are puppet regimes. Puppet regimes. In the Second World War, Germany had a lot of puppet regimes in many different European countries. These are puppet regimes. They're not democratically elected. Imperialist forces in the West will not allow any other ones elected. So therefore, I'm going to share, and we're going to move, we want to redirect this to where this is about. This is about Gaza. This is about what's happening in Palestine. And just about that limited aid that has been going in, if you're following the news that the West would not say, those limited spots have been killing spots. Every day, there's tens and sometimes hundreds of Palestinians are killed when they're trying to get flour. My plan was to put the names of the Palestinians who were just murdered in Gaza, and mostly trying to get on these distribution points. I have never seen something this cruel in any war before. I was just going to scroll their name and put them there, but starting putting pages and pages and pages and pages and names of Arabic, and it needed translation. That would be there the next time. We're here about Gaza because there is a man-made famine. There is a genocide going on right now like the world had never seen before. I haven't heard in any war that happened before where food is used as a trap, where soldiers are actually targeting people. And Elizabeth can speak when she gets again about the targeting of children with their heads. Our last question here is, as you can see, is for everyone. What's your ask from our government leaders? What's your ask from union leaders? We're speaking, many of you are unionized, and some of you are unionized in OPSEU. What's your ask in OPSEU leaders? What is your ask for the broader community? Again, we Palestinians are not numbers. Colonization starts by dehumanizing people, then blaming the victim, then collective punishment. Before we go there, I was looking at CPC yesterday, and something really you see the double standard. It says breaking news: 2 people killed in Ukraine, 13 injured in Israeli raid. At the same day, I looked at the news from Gaza. There was 75 people murdered just from the dawn to about 8 a.m. at the food distribution checkpoint. How many words do you hear about that in the Western media? Nothing. So I'm going to start with Elizabeth. Your OPSEU activist. What's your asks? So from our government leader, union leaders, and the broader community, I'm going to stop sharing so that people can see your face.
I'm going to try to be brief because I could go on, but what I want to say is that first, what I experienced and what the participants experienced was symbolic of governmental failure. It is proof that our government has no intentions of doing anything. They had no intentions of helping the Canadians that were there during this march. It was the attempt to march that was significant. And in our thousands, we attempted to show the world that it is the collective of people who will make the difference. And for me, I also wanted to show Palestinians that they're not forgotten. And we are here. We showed up. We traveled there. We physically showed up. And Ala, you just mentioned numbers, right? And I think we've been told for a while the same numbers by the media, right? It's like 50,000, 60,000, like that's kind of the figure I keep hearing. Around, 60,000 Palestinians have been killed, but how can that number stay the same while there has been mass killings that continue every single day? Those are questions I want people to ask. All universities have been destroyed. Hospitals have been bombed. Healthcare workers are targeted. Journalists, reporters, the press, they're targeted. The majority of the people who are killed are children. This is not by accident. This is intentional. And after destroying every building in Gaza, they're now targeting civilians, but more specifically children. And there have been doctors working in Gaza who are from Canada, the United States, all over the world, and they're telling us that they have never seen anything like this. They're seeing children, kids coming in one after another with bullets in their head, bullets in their heart, so precise that even the stethoscope couldn't even be that precise. And it's not just one. Some of these kids are coming in with one or two. It's like, it's so obvious. It's like a game to them that they're just shooting these innocent babies. So when I hear people say, Israel has a right to defend itself after 2 years, is that really self-defense? Is killing children self-defense? And we have to stop believing what is being fed to us. And even if we think it's from trusted sources, we have to open our eyes and think for ourselves and speak out. If we're on Facebook all the time, maybe some of this stuff is not on there and it's being hidden from us on purpose. And while we watch, our silence fuels this. Our labor pays for this. Our taxes buys the bullets that kill these babies. Just imagine a child losing their whole family, walking around alone, picking up pieces of their siblings, and then surviving bombings. And then now they're dying of starvation. There is no food. It is like a man-made famine. There is food there that is not being allowed. Doctors are going there, being stopped, baby formulas taken away before they can enter. This is not okay. And we're all watching. This is what I'm seeing every single day. And this is why I continue to speak out and I continue to do what I'm doing. Our world is watching a live genocide for the first time ever. So I'm asking everyone here, we have to keep our eyes on Gaza. And if we don't act now, who's gonna be next? And they're not only committing genocide, they are committed to genocide at this point. And for unions, I think, without going into the details of what's happening in the labor movement, I think if you're a very active member, you hear the discussions, the comments, even the debates that really shouldn't even happen. It should just be common sense. We need to ask ourselves why it is that activism, why is it that our activism stops at Palestine? Is it because of skin color? Is it because of religion? Is it because of the language that they speak? Imagine if 60,000 people were killed in Ukraine or some other European country. Would unions be screaming at the top of their lungs? Do the cries of Palestinian children not deserve the same empathy as others that we so easily fight for? And performative activism with land acknowledgements, signs that say, everyone is welcome, equity statements, statement of respect, all while you silence Palestinians and their allies is pure hypocrisy. So it is time. I'm asking people to act, and do not be afraid to speak up. Do not be silent, because this is going, generations down the road is going to learn about this, and you're going to have to answer what you did when this happened.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And pretty much you summed it up. Silence is complicity, and stop the hypocrisy, pretty much. Why does activism for some people stop at Palestine? We're claiming things, oh, it's complicated. Oh, I don't know much. You're trying to find every way so that they do it. I've fortunately seen some great activists here, like the great people here that we hear and seeing that some of OPSEU, but I've seen others who would go the extra time, work extra time so that they do not say anything about Palestine. History is not going to be kind to you 20, 30 years from you. When your grandchildren ask you when the genocide was transmitted live in Gaza and you decided not to do anything. I'm going to say the same thing that I said when I received the Human Rights Award in convention. When you want to speak about human rights, you speak when it's difficult, not when it's easy, not when it's lip syncing, not when it's fashionable or performative. Lori, do you want to go ahead and see what's your ask from our government leaders, union leaders, the community, anything you want to say as, you know, a UP member and all your activism in this experience? What is your ask?
Yeah, just very quickly. I think Elizabeth covered a lot in her initial talk about what needs to be done in the shortfalls of our governments, but stop arming Israel, cancel trade agreements with them, recognize Palestine as a state, and complicity. And for me, I think we're in big trouble that we need to stop the Zionist lobby in individuals and groups from manipulating government policy. I feel like we keep losing to these groups that have so much power over changing policy and changing history in schools and bubble laws and changing the definition of anti-Semitism. Like, it just seems that every time you turn around, there's something special that Israel is asking for, or the Zionists are asking for. And I respect, there's so many Jewish people who don't agree with what's going on. So we have to be careful not to say the Jewish people as a whole, because there are very many who are sticking their necks out, because once they stick their necks out, they're not treated very nicely by their own people. And union leaders or union, I was very impressed with the statements that you read out earlier with that passed resolutions. That was great to hear all that stuff. I just wish we could realize it more. Like, yes, it's words on a piece of paper, but the starving kids of Gaza can't eat words. And so we need action and we need involvement by regular people to make the change that's so needed. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Lori. Ammar, do you have any comments on this question? What do you want government leaders, union labor leaders, the broader community? You have spoken about this too, so if you can be brief, if you would like.
Yeah, it's again, it's sometimes people think, and I saw one of the questions, that if our government is already complicit, what can we do? Is there something we can do to end the genocide tomorrow and free Palestine tomorrow? No, absolutely not. This is something that took 77 years, and we cannot think that this is easy or there is a magic solution that somebody can tell you and we can do it tomorrow. It's about consistency. You have to pressure the government. Yes, our government is complicit, but that doesn't mean that we can't change their position. In our recent election, Palestine was a big item on the discussion table. As it should be, because we as Canada, we first of all, we claim care for human rights, right? But we're not putting our foot where our mouth is. We need to make sure our actions meet our words. Secondly, we are complicit in this. Even selfishly as Canadians, do you want to be complicit in such a genocide? We have asked for arms embargo on Israel. The previous government passed the bill after watering it down, and they still did not fully apply that bill that they passed. So you can still put pressure by contacting your MP, by keep signing petitions, by making sure that these elected politicians, these elected officials know that the majority of Canadians care about this issue. Because a lot of politicians, I mean, I'm sure some of you already know this, but a lot of politicians just care about the amount of votes they can get. And once they see that a lot of Canadians care about this issue, they would shift their stance to make sure that they get elected for the next election. This might be a bit of a sad truth, but it's the truth. Our unions, we need to divest from any complicit investment companies. This is, at the end of the day, our money. We are all working very, very hard every single day. This is our pension money. Do we want this to be blood money, the money that we're going to feed ourselves in the future, and our kids and our grandkids maybe? Do you want this to be blood money? So it's important to divest from these companies. And for the general public, every one of us can take an action. No matter how small, they all add up and they all matter. Some people go to protest, some people write letters, some people spread education. Some people, even if they're not interacting with anyone, they can spend an hour or two watching a documentary or reading a book and educating themselves, because ignorance is dangerous, even from good people. So before you try to educate anyone about Palestine, I encourage all of you to educate yourselves. There's a lot of books, a lot of documentaries available online, a lot of them for free, to tell you the full truth about Palestine, what happened from not just 2 years ago, not just 1948, from 1917, from the Balfour Declaration, and I'll stop there for the sake of time.
Thank you. Ahmed, if you can be brief.
I will. So basically, my colleagues talked about the, what they will ask of the government. I will focus on the labor unions, because I believe that I'm deeply hopeful that the solidarity movement for Palestine is not only here to stay, but will continue to grow stronger and become more and more effective. The labor unions have a great role to play as a grassroots organization in alliance with other indigenous movements, student organizations, other grassroots organizations. We believe that we can make an impact on what's happening in Palestine. You see, the apartheid state of Israel is not exempt from the forces of history, because some would say, but Israel is such a strong state, it's supported by the states, how could, but regardless, they are not exempt from the forces of history. Just as the apartheid regime in South Africa was dismantled, so too will be the Zionist state. What Lori touched on, I would like to elaborate a little bit more on the increasing number of Jews that are coming forward and taking a principled stand against the massacres carried out by Israel. You remember last month there was a gathering of Jews from all over the world. 500 of them, including A.M. Pape, one of them, and others, and so many prominent Jews, and they took such a strong and principled stance in support of Palestine that, makes you feel that this state will not last forever. It will not. Zionism as a movement is proving day after day after day that it's not only genocidal toward Palestinians, but also profoundly self-destructive for Jews. Rekindling, what's happening in Palestine is rekindling the trauma of the Holocaust, as the Jews are witnessing a genocide being carried out in their name, targeting innocent civilians and children. So I have a great hope that the solidarity movement of all these groups will grow stronger, and we will we will see the what happened to South Africa happened in Israel. It's not a far-fetched target.
Thank you. And just a comment, we should always, differentiate between Zionism and Judaism. And Zionism is an atheist political movement that started in the 19th century. And if you want to hear more about that, you can take a look at some of the videos by Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro from New York, who is he's an anti-Zionist. He's not really pro-Palestine, but he has a 1,400-page book, How Zionism is explaining Zionism, the difference with Judaism, and a few other things. So I'll refer to some of those works that you can take a look. You can take a look there. We never must differentiate between anti-Semitism and the criticism of the state of Israel. We must also fight anti-Palestinian racism. And just on that motion, even some former Israeli general like the Yair Golan, who is he is the leader of the Democrats Party in Israel, which is formed as a merger of Meretz and the Labour parties, which is considered more on the center or center-left. He said, well, when he was criticized there, a state does not kill children as a hobby. This was a general in the Israeli army. You can hear how even Ehud Olmert, the former Israeli prime minister, is criticizing what's happening in Gaza right now and what Israel is doing. And you can all you need to do is just check some of the Israeli media, and a lot of it is in English. And there was one quick question, anyone can answer it, maybe Ammar might know. And I'm just going to read it. It's a quick answer. Where did that go? It is, let me see. Yeah, it was, I see, Ammar, that you answered. It is about having any interest in collecting the experience of those Canadians who marched to Gaza to make it as a documentary, because we heard, and this is the thank you for all of you that you are here. And it would be good if that hasn't happened yet, that the four of you can take it to the others who organize it into Manuel and make this a great documentary.
There are around 90 Canadians who made it to Egypt, and these are just the ones from the official Canadian delegations. I actually heard about some other Canadians that happened to be there, that they made it on their own, or they went from other countries. Just because I worked on organizing this, so I knew every single Canadian by name who was in Egypt. But then I saw some passports with the police, Canadian passports, and I tried to sneak into the name. I found out they're like names I haven't seen before. So let's say more than 90. And some of them, as I indicated to the person who asked the question, I know one person, at least one of the organizers, already started on a book, and another participant indicated to us her intentions to create a documentary. There's nothing solid right now, nothing available. We haven't been in the country for 2 weeks, some of us. We came at different times, some of us more. There's something in the works about this, basically.
Yeah.
And maybe we can share it with you, Alaa, to share with this group if there is something solid about it and it's published.
Absolutely. So we're just going to go. We're already half an hour over time. Before we go to final thoughts, I'm just putting my email here because we have a screening from Local 415 tomorrow for Where the Olive Trees Weep, 6:30 to 7 p.m. You can join us. I already put the links there. If we still have seats. If not, you can send it. I'm going to move to everyone to give us their final thoughts. First, I would also like to thank the Young Workers Committee, Coalition of Racialized Workers, the Indigenous Circle, the Rainbow Alliance, ACL, and our equity staff here at OPSEU for all the work that they did. I want to thank our 4 panelists so much for the work that they did for going to Gaza, for standing for human rights. I want to thank Lindsay, Taylor, and Kingsley for their thoughts. But before, we can move to the panelists, but I would like maybe a minute, if you would like, my 3 other coordinators, If you want to say a word, maybe Lindsay, if you want to take a minute to say your final thoughts, if you like.
I don't even think I'll take a minute, but it was really great to hear from the panelists. I appreciate you all coming here, and I appreciate the good turnout from OPSEU members coming to listen and learn from you all. I think it's really beneficial to us and to our membership to hear from you. And yeah, I just appreciate you all and thank you for sharing your stories.
Taylor?
I think every time we gather and do these educationals, or we do these courses, or we go to Nookchi, or we have these conversations, we know that change comes from a difficult place. We know no change can come without a difficult conversation. And I think that our increased enrollment and the work that we're doing on a national and a broader level is something that I'm proud to stand behind as an OPSEU SEFPO member. And I'm so incredibly proud of the work of my dear friend Elizabeth, and I have to give her amazing shout outs for all the bravery that it took to do that, and all of you, the bravery it took of all of you to do what some of us could not do. And so thank you so much for sharing here tonight. And I really appreciate you giving our members in our community this opportunity to hear your stories, and know that I am so very proud of you.
Kingsley?
I want to thank all the guest panelists today, and especially Elizabeth as well, whom I know. It was an evening that I learned quite a lot. Thank you.
Marjorie, if you're still with us, you have any final thoughts?
Hi, I just want to say thank you to everyone, from the attendees to the panelists. It's amazing. Liz, I echo what Taylor said. I sent you a message to check it. But what you've done today is not going to be the end of what you do, because as long as you continue to speak out and to speak up for the children, others are going to follow you. And I'm very proud of what you've done. Ahmad and Amir, thank you so much. Hearing from you too. I know the history, I learned it in school, but hearing it from you and knowing that you've lived it, you've been there, you know what's going on, it makes it even so much closer. And it's making me more angry than I was before. Maybe not a good thing, but we need to get angry in order for us to get up and start doing the actions that we need to do to change. Same thing, Lori. Thank you so very much. Right? That's it. You guys did great.
So the panelist is just going to be 1 minute maximum, because we're going to wrap up. And I'm changing the order. I'm going to start with Lori.
Okay. Just to finish up then, we just don't stop talking about Palestine. We have to stand up and speak out, and collective action in solidarity is in solidarity, and one day we will see a free Palestine.
Thank you. Ahmad?
Yeah, just one word. We were almost 100 participants in the March to Gaza, but I was told by our coordinating committee in Montreal that had we extended it, it would have reached to 300, 400, 500. I was getting calls from friends who knew about it and wanted to join. This is very gratifying. When I hear about this, when I hear about the two retired couple who joined us from Windsor in their 70s, it fills my heart with hope that the solidarity movement with Palestine will continue until free Palestine.
Ammar?
Basically, I just ask everyone to never stop doing something to work for a free Palestine, right? It doesn't matter how small the action is, every action matters. and unity is always better. So if you can join a local group or community in your city, in your area to do actions, please do that. If not for anything else, for your own self, for your own humanity, for your own conscience. Thank you.
The last word is to the person as a representative in our equity groups that I'm most proud of. I'm proud of a lot of representatives there. Elizabeth, please go ahead.
Thank you. I really appreciate everybody's kind words. I want to thank the three speakers who are here, who has been fighting way longer than me. And I want to thank you for being a part of this webinar. It's nice to see you because I know we never actually physically, got to meet each other when we were in Cairo. So this is nice. I want to thank, I guess, the union members and people in the community. I think that what we need to remember is there are more people on the right side of history right now than the wrong. And I've received a lot of support and kind words. I mean, of course, I get the 1, 2 odd, not very nice comments, but it doesn't even matter at this point. And right now, before we end this, I am asking every one of you the reason we are doing this, the reason we're sharing our stories and experience is to remember what is still happening. What is still happening, do your research, go look and find out what's really happening. All eyes on Gaza right now, free Palestine, and thank you from the bottom of my heart. I so appreciate this. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. If the panelists could stay, please, for a debrief. For the attendees, thank you very much. This webinar is over.